Number one, Christy makes a cylindrical paper mache umbrella stand for her grandmother's birthday. She plans to glue fabric to the lateral surface and the bottom of the stand for decoration. After studying the dimensions of the stand, Christy cuts out the net shown below from the material she plans to use. Based on the net, how much fabric does Christy need for this project? Round your answer to the nearest 100 square centimeters. So first thing is we need to find the area of this rectangle. This rectangle is considered the lateral surface area of the cylinder. Looking at the math chart, the formula for lateral surface area of a cylinder is 2 pi r h. So lateral surface area is 2 pi r h. So now we're going to plug in the measurements. We have 2, let's round pi to 3. The radius is 15. The height is 75. So the lateral surface area is 2 times 3, which is 6. 6 times 5, which is 90. And 90 times 75, which equals 6,650. So that's the lateral area of the cylinder. Now we need to find the area of the circle using the formula from your math chart. The area of a circle is pi times radius squared. So we're using 3 times 15 squared. 15 squared is 225. And 3 times 225 is 675. So to find the total, to find the area of both the circle and the lateral part of the cylinder, we need to add 675 to 6,750. And we get roughly 7,425. Now, since we rounded pi down, we know that our answer needs to be greater than 7,425. So the correct answer would be D. Number 2. Karina's math class is learning how to find the surface area of various objects. They notice that the teacher has an unopened box of tissues on her desk. The class is curious about the surface area of the box. So let's circle the words surface area, which the students know is shaped like a rectangular prism. Rectangular prism. Karina measures it. She finds the box to be 11 centimeters wide, 11 centimeters deep, and 12.8 centimeters tall. Then Karina draws the following diagram so that all students can see her measurements. Okay, so here's a picture of the box of tissues. So find the total surface area. Well, let's look at the math chart, and we know that a rectangular prism has a total surface area formula of area of the base, perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So let's write down this formula on the worksheet. Now, we need to first find the perimeter of the base. Well, the base is in the shape of a rectangle because that's a rectangular prism. So the perimeter of the base is going to be 11 plus 12.8 plus 11 plus 12.8. So when you add 11 plus 11 is 21, 22. 22 plus 12.8 plus 12.8 equals 4760. So the perimeter of the base is 4760. The height connects the two bases. So here's one of my bases, and there's a base on the other side. So this edge right here connects the two bases. So the height is 11. The height is not always the vertical measurement, you guys. It's just the measurement that connects the two bases. Plus 2 times the area of the base. Well, 11 times 12.8 is 140.8. So let's multiply 47.6 times 11. We get 523.6 plus 2 times 140.8. So 140.8 times 2 is 281.6. Now we're going to add those two measurements. We're going to add 281.6 to 523.6. And we get, let's see, 281.6 plus 523 gives us 805.2 exactly. So the correct answer is B. That's the total surface area of that box of tissues. Number 3. Number 3 says, Denzel and Logan get into a big discussion about straws. Denzel says that it takes only 2 to 3 square inches of plastic material to make a straw. Logan says that is not enough material. He thinks a straw uses at least 7 square inches of material. The two boys get a straw from the cafeteria and measure it. The straw's length is 10 inches and its diameter is 0.25, as illustrated by the model. To the nearest tenth of a square inch, what is the amount of material used to make the straw? Well, let's think about this. The straw, first of all, is in the shape of a cylinder. Second of all, a straw has no material on either end. So we're just calculating the lateral surface area of the cylinder. So LA equals 2 times pi times radius times height. That's straight from your math chart. Lateral surface area of a cylinder. Now we're going to plug in our measurements, 2 times 3 times the radius. Now, this is the diameter, so the radius has to be half of 0.25. So 0.25 divided by 2 equals 0.125 is the radius, times the height, and the height connects the two ends of the straw, which is 10. So let's multiply. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 0.125 equals 0.75. 75 point, let's actually multiply by 3.14. When you multiply by 3.14, you get approximately 7.85. And it says to the nearest tenth of a square inch. So we need to round 8 up to 9. So the correct answer is A, 7.9 inches. Number 4. Nicole and Terry select 3 identical blocks from a set of 12 blocks to create a design. The 3 blocks are illustrated below. The girls decide to keep the design simple. Terry stacks the blocks as shown here in this diagram. Nicole notices that not all the faces of the original blocks are visible. What is the surface area in square centimeters of the figure made by stacking the blocks? So let's look at each one of these blocks to determine how many faces of the block is not visible. Well, we know a cube has 6 faces. So let's take a look at this block right here. How many faces are not visible? Well, just 1. Let's look at this block here. How many faces are not visible? Well, we have this face that's not visible and the top face that's not visible. So there's 2 faces not visible. And the last block here has 1 face not visible. So there's a total of 4 faces that are not visible. So let's find the surface area of one of the cubes. So the surface area is perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. Well, a cube has congruent edge measurements. So the perimeter of the base, we know that the base is in the shape of a square. So here's my base. So one edge has a length of 4, so that means this edge has to have a length of 4. So the perimeter of that base would be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is 16. The height has to be 4 plus 2 times the area of the base. Well, the area of this square would be 16. So 16 times 4 is 64. 2 times 16 is 32. So the total surface area of one cube has to be 96. Well, we have 3 cubes. So we're going to take 96 times 3, which is 288. And then don't forget there's some faces of the cubes that aren't visible. There's 4 faces that aren't visible. So what's the total surface area of the 4 faces that aren't visible? Well, we take 4 times 16 and we get 64. So we're going to subtract the area of the 4 faces that are not visible, which is 64 square units. So we get a total surface area of visible faces of these 3 joined blocks is 224 centimeters squared, or square centimeters. So that 224 would be your answer. Okay, let's move on to the next worksheet. Megan just returned from her trip to Japan 3 days ago. She puts her 8 favorite souvenirs from the trip in a decorative cube-shaped box, including the lid. The box has a total surface area of 384 square inches. What is the volume? So total surface area is 384. We're looking for the volume. Well, first of all, we know that the volume formula for a cube is length times width times height. But we don't know what the measurements are. We don't know what the length measurement, width measurement, or height measurement is. So we need to do a calculation prior to using this volume formula. So we know that there's 6 faces to a cube, right? A cube is just like a number die. So we're going to divide 384 by 6. And when you divide 384 by 6, you get 64. So the area of one of the faces to the cube is 64. So here's one of the faces of the cube. It has an area of 64. We know that the faces of a cube are in the shape of a square. To find the side length of the square, you take the square root of the area. So the square root of 64 is 8. So the edge lengths of this cube have to be 8 inches. So we just found our measurement for the length, and we know that a cube has congruent measurements, so all these are 8. And when you multiply 8 times 8 times 8, you get 512, and that's not one of your answer choices, so the correct answer is D. Number 2, Rishi is painting the lateral surface of a pyramid-shaped sculpture. So let's circle the word pyramid. The base of the sculpture, which she is not painting, is shaped like an equilateral triangle that has a perimeter of 29.7. So the perimeter of the base is 29.7. Each lateral edge measures 13 feet. The height of each lateral face is 12 feet. Which of the following is the best estimate of the lateral surface area? So we're using the formula for lateral surface area of a pyramid, which is here. So let's write perimeter of the base times the slant height divided by 2. So the perimeter of the base is given to us. It's 29.7. The slant height is either 12 or 13. Looks like the height of the pyramid, the slant height always has to be longer than the height, because the slant height is the hypotenuse, and the hypotenuse is always the longest measurement, so we have to use 13 as the slant height. And then divide that by 2, and you get approximately 195 feet. So that's the lateral surface area of the pyramid. Number 3. Angie's mom buys a set of 6 glass tumblers. Each tumbler is cylindrical with a height of 5.8 inches. So from this point up to the center of the base, this point, that's considered to be your height. And that measurement is 5.8 inches. And a diameter of 4.1 inches. So from here to here is 4.1 inches. That's your diameter. However, any liquid poured into the tumbler is actually contained in a cone-shaped glass cup inscribed in the tumbler. So when you pour fluid or whatever the substance is into this tumbler, it only goes into the cone part of the tumbler. Which is the best estimate of the amount of liquid that one of these tumblers can hold? So if only the cone shape is holding liquid, we need to find volume of a cone. So look at your math chart. The formula for volume of a cone is area base times height divided by 3. So area of the base times the height divided by 3. So I don't like using capital B because it really doesn't give us enough information that we need to use it in the formula. We know that capital B stands for area of the base. The base is in the shape of a circle. So let's replace capital B with the formula for area of a circle. So pi times radius squared times the height divided by 3. So we'll use 3 for pi. The radius is half of 4.1. Let's round that to 2. The height is 5.8. Let's round that to 6. And then divide all that by 3. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Okay, let's go back to the answer choices. Notice that the answer choices have the symbol pi in it. So we're not gonna multiply by pi. We're just gonna keep the symbol pi in our answer choice, or in our answer. So let's see. So we have 6 times 2 squared. Let's see, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. So we have pi times 24 divided by 3. So divide 24 by 3 and we have pi times 8, which is the same thing as 8 pi. So the correct answer would be B. Again, anytime you have pi in the answer choice, you're not actually going to multiply by pi. You're just going to leave it in your final answer. So it's not completely simplified. It's not a completely simplified answer. Number 4. Mr. Henry is responsible for designing the packaging for a new candy bar. The candy bar is shaped like a triangular prism with dimensions as shown in the diagram. Mr. Henry knows that finding the surface area of the candy bar will help him determine the amount of material needed for the packaging. What is the total surface area? So let's circle that in square centimeters of the candy bar. Okay, so we need to find the total surface area. So let's take out our math chart and find the formula. We know a triangular prism, total surface area is perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. So let's write down that formula. So we have total surface area equals perimeter of the base times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. Again, I don't really like using capital B in the formula because I want to substitute the area of the base formula for capital B. Well, the base is in the shape of a triangle. How do I know that? Well, a prism has 2 bases and there's only 2 triangles in this triangular prism. So I'm going to rewrite the formula for total surface area of a prism to include the area of the base formula. So since the base is in the shape of a triangle, I'm going to look at my math chart and see that the formula for area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So now let's substitute our measurements into the formula. Well, the perimeter of the base is simply the perimeter of this right triangle. Well, it's a Pythagorean triplet triangle, 3, 4, so the hypotenuse has to be 5. So just add up the lengths of those sides to get the perimeter. So 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 5 is 12. The height of the triangular prism connects the 2 bases, so it has to be 10.5 plus 2 times the area of the base. Well, base times height divided by 2 is your formula for area of a triangle. Base times height divided by 2. Well, how do I know that 3 and 4 are the base and the height of the right triangle? Well, the base and the height of a triangle are perpendicular and they form a right angle, which you see here. So 3 has to be my base of the right triangle and 4 has to be my height. So we're going to use 3 times 4 divided by 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12, right? 3 times 4 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Then you have to multiply 12 times 10.5. Which equals 126. So now we're going to add 126 to 12, and we get 138. And we're dealing in surface area, so it has to be units squared. In this case, the units are centimeters, so centimeters squared, and that would be your answer. So the amount of wrapping paper that you need for this packaging is 138 centimeters squared. Number 5, Clarissa's Clever Creations sells spherical Christmas ornaments that can be opened up and filled with candy. Marla buys 7 of these ornaments to give her friends. 2 that have 3-inch diameter, and 5 that have 2.5-inch diameters. Which is closest to the combined volume of the 2 larger ornaments? So we're dealing in volume of a sphere, and we're only working with the larger ornaments, the 2 larger ornaments. So the larger ornaments have a diameter of 3 inches. So let's look up the formula for volume of a sphere. On your math chart, you have 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. So let's write that. 4 times pi times radius cubed divided by 3. We'll use 3.14 for pi since we're using a calculator. The radius, now the radius is not 3, that's the diameter. So the radius has to be half of 3, which is 1.5. So we're going to cube 1.5 and not 3. So let's calculate what 1.5 cubed is. 1.5 cubed is 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5, and that equals 3.375. Now let's multiply 4 times 3.14, and we get 12.56. And then don't forget we need to divide that by 3. So 12.56 times 3.375 equals 42.39. Divide that by 3, and you get 14.13. And you'll want to select answer choice D, but don't forget, let's refer back to the original problem. It says there's 2. This is the volume of 1 ornament, but we need to find the volume of 2 of the larger ornaments. So we have to multiply that by 2. 14 times 2 is approximately 28, or 14.13 times 2 is approximately 28, so the correct answer has to be C.